A team shows up to the biggest tournament in football history. They play their opening match in front of 80,000 people. The final whistle blows, and instead of heading back to their hotel to recover like every other team at the World Cup, they're told to get on a plane immediately. No overnight stay, no recovery time, just leave. That is exactly what happened to Iran's national football team on the night of June 15, 2026, just hours after drawing 2-2 with New Zealand at one of the most politically charged World Cup matches ever played. Now, football fans around the world are asking a simple question. Is this actually happening at a World Cup? How is a team expected to compete at the highest level of international football when the logistics around them are this complicated? This isn't a small story. This is a situation that has been building for months, and what we saw this week is only the latest chapter. Iran is competing at the 2026 World Cup from a base camp in Tijuana, Mexico, crossing an international border just to play their games, and now being sent back within hours of each match ending. So let's break down exactly how we got here, what's happening on the ground right now, and what it all means for Iran's chances at this tournament. Because the story of Iran at FIFA 2026 is unlike anything we've seen at a World Cup before. If you're new here and you follow football closely, hit subscribe right now, because we cover the stories that go beyond the scoreline. Now let's get into it. To understand what's happening this week, you need to go back to late February 2026. That's when the entire situation around Iran's participation in this World Cup changed overnight. The conflict that began in late February created immediate uncertainty about whether Iran would even travel to the United States for the tournament. Iran's sports minister initially declared the team could not participate, and for several weeks the question wasn't about hotel rooms or visa logistics, it was about whether Iran would show up at all. Iran had qualified for this World Cup by finishing first in their Asian qualifying group. They were one of the first teams in the world to book their spot at FIFA 2026. They had earned the right to be here. But circumstances far beyond the football pitch put everything into question. What followed was months of back and forth. Iran's football federation pushed for their group matches to be moved from American cities to Mexico, citing concerns about safety and logistics. FIFA ultimately rejected that request and kept the schedule as planned. Iran's games in Group G would remain in Los Angeles and Seattle. The compromise that emerged was this: Iran would base themselves in Tijuana, Mexico, just across the border from San Diego. They would travel into the United States on match days and return to Mexico afterwards. It sounds straightforward. In practice, it has been anything but. When the Iranian squad landed in Tijuana ahead of the tournament, several members of the support staff and delegation had reportedly been denied visas. The federation's own president was reportedly among those who couldn't get in. Key administrative staff who help run a professional football team day to day were left behind. Players received their visas just 10 days before the opening match. That is not a normal preparation window. Most international teams spend months locking down logistics, accommodation, travel, training schedules. Iran was still waiting for visa confirmations less than 2 weeks before kickoff. The federation described the situation as political interference in sport in its worst form. U.S. officials confirmed that visas had been issued for the players and necessary support staff, while making clear the process would remain tightly managed. If you're finding this story important, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We'll keep covering this as it develops. Now here's where things get interesting, because even with all of that context, what happened after the New Zealand match on the night of June 15th still caught people off guard. Iran drew 2-2 with New Zealand. It was a competitive game. Iran had a goal controversially disallowed. The match was played in front of a huge crowd at SoFi Stadium, with Iranian American fans both supporting and protesting in the stands. It was an emotional, high-intensity occasion. And then the coach, Amir Gallineo, spoke to reporters afterward. He said the team had been expecting to spend the night in Los Angeles, recover properly, and return to Mexico the following afternoon at lunchtime. That was the plan the team was operating under. Instead, they were told immediately after the final whistle to get on a plane back to Tijuana. They didn't even give us time to recover, Gallineo said. After the game today, they said to us, "You have to leave immediately." He added something that really stood out. "I think our team is perhaps the most oppressed in the whole World Cup." That's the head coach of a team competing at the FIFA World Cup, describing his own players as oppressed. That is not language you normally hear in a post-match press conference. Iran's superstar striker Mehdi Taremi also spoke to reporters that night. He confirmed the team was aware before the game that they would have to leave immediately, and he was direct about how it's affecting the squad. "It's a bad situation, and we're just tired of this situation, because for the last 2 months we have been in a lot of problems. It's so bad and it affects our team." Taremi is one of the most recognizable strikers in European club football. He's been through big match pressure at the highest level. When a player of his experience is publicly saying the off-pitch chaos is affecting the team, that tells you how serious the disruption has become. Just hours after the match, it also emerged that one of Iran's wingers, Mehdi Taremi, had a visa that had expired. His single-entry visa meant the moment he left the United States after the New Zealand game, he technically couldn't come back for the next match. That was resolved the following day, with a multiple-entry visa issued, and the U.S. State Department confirming the matter was closed. But that this happened at all during the World Cup itself adds another layer to the story. Now, some context matters here. U.S. officials pushed back almost immediately on the framing that this was a last-minute change or an unfair surprise.
Andrew Giuliani, the executive director of the White House FIFA task force, told reporters on June 16th that the team was always informed this would be the process. "We were clear this was the process," he said. He added that Iran had advanced knowledge of what the arrangements would look like. So there's a dispute at the heart of this. Iran's coaching staff say they expected a different arrangement. U.S. officials say Iran always knew what was coming. Somewhere between those two positions is the reality of what was communicated, when, and to whom. What is not disputed is the physical reality of what this team is going through. To get from Tijuana to SoFi Stadium in Inglewood for the New Zealand match, Iran's players endured approximately 5 hours of travel and security checks for what would normally be a relatively short journey. 5 hours of travel before a World Cup match. Then the match itself, then another flight back the same night. Think about what that means for the body. Professional football recovery protocols are built around sleep, ice treatment, nutrition, physiotherapy, and rest as quickly as possible after a game. Recovery in the hours immediately following a match is critical. The longer that process is delayed, the slower recovery becomes. Iran's players are dealing with that delay before every single match at this tournament. For comparison, other teams at this World Cup are settled in established base camps, some within 30 to 45 minutes of their match venues. They play, they recover, they train, and they prepare for the next game. Iran is doing all of that while managing border crossings, multi-hour transit windows, and real-time visa complications. The question this raises is bigger than one team's experience. What does this say about FIFA's ability to protect all participating nations when the host country's relationship with a specific team is this complicated? Let me zoom out here, because there's a historical dimension to this that's worth thinking about. The World Cup has always operated on a principle that inside the tournament, football comes first. Whatever political tensions exist between nations, whatever conflicts are playing out in the wider world, the tournament is supposed to function as a level playing field. Teams show up, they play, they compete under the same rules. That principle has been tested before. There have been instances of countries that don't have diplomatic relations being drawn into the same group. There have been matches where political symbolism was impossible to ignore. But the tournament infrastructure, the hotels, the training facilities, the travel logistics, has generally been kept consistent for all teams. What's different in 2026 is the nature of the arrangement Iran is competing under. This isn't just about symbolic tension or awkward political optics. The actual physical experience of competing at this tournament is meaningfully different for Iran than it is for any other team. And FIFA's position throughout has been to maintain the schedule while working with the situation, rather than pushing back on the host. FIFA rejected Iran's request to move their games to Mexico. FIFA kept the existing schedule intact. FIFA's president visited the Iran dressing room after the New Zealand match and praised the players for writing history, according to reports from inside the room. But FIFA has not publicly addressed the specifics of what Iran is being asked to navigate. That matters because one of FIFA's core responsibilities is to ensure competitive conditions are fair. Whether the arrangements around Iran's accommodation and travel rise to the level of a competitive fairness issue is a legitimate question, and it's one that has not been formally answered. Now, let's talk about the football, because through all of this, Iran's players have to actually compete. The draw with New Zealand in the opener is a result they can work with. Group G has Iran, New Zealand, Belgium, and Egypt. Belgium are clearly the group favorites, but the other three spots are genuinely open. Taremi is a world-class striker. The team qualified in dominant fashion through Asian qualifying. Coach Galenowi has been building a coherent squad identity over his tenure. On purely footballing terms, Iran have the quality to progress from this group. But the disruption they're carrying is real. 5 hours of travel before a match, immediate return after, visa complications. Key staff members from the support team who couldn't get visas at all, meaning whoever would normally handle specific preparation or medical or administrative duties has been missing from the camp. Players talk publicly about being tired of the situation. They talk about it affecting the team. That psychological weight matters, especially as the tournament progresses and the margins get tighter. Their next match is against Belgium on June 21st, back in Los Angeles. Then Egypt in Seattle on June 26th. Every single one of those games involves the same cross-border travel cycle. If Iran managed to get out of the group despite all of this, it would be genuinely one of the more remarkable stories of resilience that the World Cup has produced. If you're watching this and thinking about what Iran's players are going through, drop a comment below. Do you think this situation is being handled fairly? What would you want FIFA to do differently? The conversation in the comments on this one is going to be interesting. So what happens from here? A few different directions this could go. Iran continue to manage the situation, focus on the football, and push through. The visa issue with Taremi has been resolved. The border crossing arrangement continues for the remaining group games. If Iran advance past the group stage, a whole new set of questions emerge about what the knockout round logistics look like. There could also be more pushback from Iran's federation, FIFA, or the broader football community. The coach's words after the New Zealand game were unusually direct. Taremi's comments were unusually personal. If that kind of public expression continues or escalates after the Belgium match, it puts more pressure on FIFA to issue a clearer statement about how the situation is being managed. Here's where we land on all of this. Iran is at the 2026 World Cup, based in Tijuana, Mexico, crossing an international border for each of their group stage matches in the United States. Their opening 2-2 draw with New Zealand was played in front of a huge and emotionally charged crowd. Hours after the final whistle, the entire squad was put on a plane back to Mexico. A player's visa expired in the process and had to be reissued the next day. The coach called his team the most oppressed in the World Cup. The star striker said the team is exhausted by months of disruption. U.S. officials say the arrangements were communicated clearly in advance. FIFA has not directly addressed the specifics of what Iran is being asked to navigate. What this means for Iran's chances at the tournament is still to be determined. What it means for the idea of a level playing field at the biggest football event in the world is a question that's only going to grow as the tournament continues. So let us know what you think. Is this something FIFA should step in and address more directly? Is it fair to ask a team to compete under these conditions at a World Cup? Leave your view in the comments. If this kind of deep dive football coverage is what you're here for, subscribe to the channel right now. We go beyond the headlines on every big story of FIFA 2026, and this one is far from over. See you in the next one.